You're welcome back to Marketplace, where we look at the issues and how they affect you. And the economy will grow by 8% next year. Now, that's coming from President John Mahama. The projection by the president is more than what government had initially forecasted, and even the World Bank and the IMF. But what is the president basing this prediction on? And how do you ensure that this growth comes along with job creation as well as wealth? Let's first hear from the president on his growth projection and the concerns that the current growth is not coming along with the required job creation.
And of course, as we grow the economy, it ensures that our GDP per capita goes up. It ensures that there's more money available in the system, and it will come to those who go and seek it. And so government has been investing. Our economy has been growing respectably. We are looking to accelerate that growth to above 8%. And I'm sure that once the economy is growing that fast, it will create more jobs. In the ICT sector, I opened the Accra Digital Center. It has the potential to produce 12,000 direct jobs. But then, if you sit at home and there's no money in your pocket and you don't take advantage of the Accra Digital Center, we are encouraging startups to come and set up there. And so we have such talents, and government is going to make sure that we create the opportunity for our people to be able to take advantage of it. We're reviving all the industries that collapsed because we cannot continue exporting our jobs. We're adding value to our products instead of exporting them in the raw form. 2 days ago, I opened the second largest gold refinery in Ghana near the airport, so that we can refine our gold before we export it instead of exporting the raw bullion. And that is going to create 300 jobs. So a lot of investment is going into the productive processes of this country in order that we can throw up more jobs for our people.
So that was President John Mahama explaining and trying to justify why he believes that the economy will grow at 8% and the fact that it will come along with some strong growth. Well, let's get onto the phone line. Let's do some analysis on this with economist Professor Godfred Bobkin on these projections and whether the 8% growth for next year, it's realistic or not. Prof, good afternoon and welcome to Marketplace. And how are you doing?
Yes, by God's grace, so I'm doing well. How about you, Steve?
I am managing myself.
There is listeners.
Interesting. 8% next year?
Given what we have been told in the past by the presidents and government and what actually happened, it's very difficult to take an informed position now on the projection the president is giving us, except to give him the benefit of the doubt. But we have to look at where we are now and whether we have enough group drivers to take us to 8% next year. We know the IMF and the World Bank, their forecast and all of that, it wasn't as high as 8%. But realistically, if you look at where we are now and the challenges that we have, we are going through an election, and hopefully once we don't have much of the election excesses, we should be able to put our house together quite quickly and then spring to full growth. But I'm not too sure we can do 8%. But the next question we also have to ask ourselves is that what are the drivers of that 8% that the president is talking about?
But I know, sorry to come in, but I remember the finance minister doing a recent engagement with journalists was actually trying to explain to us that it will be based on development on 10 and the Sankofa oil fields. So it looks like revenue from those areas are really going to pick up.
Yeah, they will pick up. We do know that. But we also have to look at it within the broader economic context. To look at how agriculture is going to do, how manufacturing is going to do. I mean, with high interest rates and other restrictions on the growth drivers of the economy, you don't want growth to be driven largely by just the hydrocarbon sector. I mean, oil, gas, and the rest of them, because these areas are not labor intensive. And even beyond that, if you look at the financial arrangement in the sector, that growth necessarily does not aid redistribution of income in this country. It doesn't. So if the president really is talking about not exporting jobs, then we should be looking at reducing our imports significantly. And what are the things that we import? They are basically along agriculture and manufacturing. So once there are no specific government interventions in the agri, in manufacturing, then I'm not too sure the much talked about job creation would actually happen now.
Because, Prof, I was actually going to move to that area as well, because his argument was that, listen, the economy is expanding. Now prepare yourself every day to take advantage of it, and don't sit in the house and let these jobs come to you. So I know you've always made this argument about growth without jobs.
Yes. Look, George, what we have seen in the last 4 or 6 years has been jobless growth. That is a fact. In 2011, our economy was one of the best performing, but it didn't necessarily suggest that Ghanaians were celebrating in that growth. So our economy, we just pound enough fufu for others to go and eat, because growth is recorded here, but growth effectively is not resident here. I'm talking about effective redistribution of wealth and income. That doesn't happen in this country. Even though we've made some progress even in reducing absolute poverty, relative poverty in the form of income inequality and the rest of it, it's still widening. The income gap is still widening. Why is that so? It's because of the source of the growth drivers. If growth is not fueled from where majority of Ghanaians draw their livelihood from, then that growth cannot be celebrated. This is the point that we are making. And I think we have to get that. And we don't have to believe in just implicit economics that economic growth would just necessarily be pro-poor. No, pro-poor growth must be intentional, backed by specific policy interventions, backed by actions. Okay? And you can see that effectively through allocation function of government. How is the government allocating its own resources to fuel growth along the lines where majority of Ghanaians draw their livelihood from? You will see that service is doing well now in terms of its share of GDP. It's not because we have got that competitive advantage in service. It's just because agri and manufacturing are not doing well. And what they have left has been taken over by service. That's all.
So, Prof, you think that the 8% that the president is projecting won't be realized?
It will not be realized. I don't want to. We'll still give the president the benefit of the doubt. But my concern also is that he should be telling us how that growth will create jobs. There should be a proper framework. The president should be able to tell Ghanaians that this is where majority of Ghanaians draw their livelihood from. Look, if you have more than 50% of your labor force in the agri sector, and that sector is not doing well, that sector is declining, that tells you that the income generating capacity of that large section of the labor force is not doing well. It's as simple as that. So when you find that growth is driven by oil and gas and all of that, that sector is not labor intensive. We want to celebrate growth where every Ghanaian can participate in the distribution of that growth, both in the generation and distribution. That is the kind of growth that we are talking about. And I think that managers of the economy will have to get this, that it is not every kind of growth that is pro-poor. We are talking about growth that we can all be proud of, growth that we can all go back home and celebrate. That is what we are talking about. Because, look, in 2011, we recorded growth as high as 11.4%. What was the dividend in people's pockets? That didn't happen.
So, Prof, for you, it's all about the growth that brings about that more important jobs to help grow our economy.
My brother, I want to see agriculture doing very, very well. And the value chain in the agri and manufacturing, we exploit, make electricity affordable, reliable, make credit affordable. Government should borrow less from the domestic market. And then, look, George, you know something? We lose as much as 30% of our harvest as a result of the huge infrastructure deficit in this country. These are the issues we want practical steps to address.
Okay.
And it's not just that we want to have 8%. That is fine. Even if that is achievable, and it still doesn't solve these pro-poor issues, growth-friendly issues, and all of that, I don't think that we can celebrate that largely.
Okay, Prof, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for those interesting thoughts about whether indeed we can achieve that 8% the president is projecting, and whether it will come along with those jobs, those critical jobs that we are actually looking forward to. Let's move away from economy to actually insurance. And basically we actually understand that 3 insurance companies will are on their way out of the market, or possibly by the end of this year, they'll no longer be operating on this market. Now, why? Because they failed to meet the regulatory minimum capital of 15 million Ghana cedis. I caught up with the Deputy Insurance Commissioner, Simon Dava, to find out from him what is going to happen to the policyholders of these firms as well as other issues. Let's watch him.
All the companies except 4 were able to meet the requirement.
The requirement of the 15 million Ghana cedis in terms of the capitalization.
Yes,
all right.
The requirement of the 15 million Ghana cedis to meet the new solvency framework of the minimum capital that we are talking about. But 4 are having challenges. Out of that 4, 1 of them made some good progress. They tried to make some rights issue for the existing shareholders, which most of them took up the rights, and what they've realized is a bit short of the minimum requirement, which I think is progress. But the remaining 3 are actually not, their efforts are not yielding the required the results we desired. The main reason is the type of investors who are coming in, and then also the source of funding. For those monies, we have to vouch for the source of the money coming, because everything we do, we have to comply with the AML, CFT, anti-money laundering requirements, so that we cannot just say this person is bringing in the capital. When we do all the due diligence through the Financial Intelligence Center, if the source of the money coming to capitalize, if it's not local, we cannot accept the funds if the source is not authentic. That is also one of the reasons, because we want to do the right thing. We don't want to fall foul of any international laws in terms of raising capital. So those 3 companies, I'm sure we may assist them to exit the market if no progress is being made. But of course, there is nothing we can do, because we need to meet the requirements of the law before we can be allowed.
Now, the National Insurance Commission is silent on the names of these 3 firms, but Joy Business understands they are all local life insurance company. Let's get onto the line and speak to insurance expert Edgar Redu. Edgar, good afternoon, and you're welcome to Marketplace to try and get your thoughts on these developments that are currently going on. Edgar, were you surprised by this announcement by the National Insurance Commission? So we'll actually be getting back to Edgar to get more development, and basically there's a quick recap that 3 insurance firms, the economist will say, all other things being equal by December, they might no longer be operating on the market. Edgar Redu is an insurance expert, and I'm going to get some thoughts on him from him on this particular issue. Edgar, good afternoon, and you're welcome to Marketplace. Were you surprised by this development?
Good afternoon, and then let me say yes, good afternoon to your listeners and your viewers.
I was asking whether you're surprised by this announcement by the National Insurance Commission that 3 firms, all other things being equal, December, they wouldn't be on the market.
Let's say I am surprised, but not surprised, in the sense that, yes, the Commission wants to, as it were, apply the laws, and there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, we all need sanity in the system, so I don't have a problem with that.
Now, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Edgar.
Yes, but the difficulty I have is the way they're going about it. I don't think that, you see, the law has provided a minimum capital, and the law gives the power to the Commission to review the capital as and when the Commission sees that certain businesses that are being underwritten by the various insurance companies are going beyond a certain level. Then the Commission says that, okay, now I have raised the capital from this figure to that figure. That does not mean that the minimum does not exist. The minimum still exists. You see?
Yeah.
And in the application of the license, the commission has a lot to do in determining what sort of license to give. So here is a situation that you are talking about various lines of businesses. The commission comes and says that, okay, I can give you the various lines of businesses to underwrite, but then provide me with this minimum capital. But because of the nature of the risk that you are underwriting, I am going to raise your minimum capital, which is the $1 million, to today, what are we talking about? 15 million
50 million Ghana cedis, yeah.
Yes. But the minimum capital is still there as $1 million. So you, the commission, if someone has the minimum capital, which is the $1 million, you now have to improvise what we call the scientific way of doing businesses. Now, in the scientific way of doing businesses, you are now going to restrict that insurer by saying that because you have the minimum, I would allow you to underwrite only this line of businesses, such that you cannot go beyond a certain level, or even if you have to go beyond a certain level, you compulsorily have to do it on fact basis or retain this level and then give the rest to the reinsurer.
Okay. Edgar, I get you on that one, but for you, I mean, I was also having an interaction with you before we came on air.
Yes.
And your concern is that whether these firms have been stopped from taking new policies or what happened to their existing policy holders.
No, you see, what happens is that, that's what I'm saying, that I think the stick that the commission is bringing in is too harsh, because there is a real minimum capital. What the commission has done is not the minimum capital. What the commission has done is that they have raised their minimum capital to a certain level because they think that the insurance companies are writing some businesses that are above a certain level. Which is okay.
I get you, but don't you think that their concern here is also to protect those policyholders out there?
And that is the point I'm making, that currently those liabilities are running. If you say you are delisting them today, those liabilities are running, and that will become a headache for you, the insurance, the commissioner, the commission itself.
So, Edgar, what's the way forward? I mean, finally, what's the way forward on this issue?
Well, I'm saying that the best way is, if they have the minimum capital, let them have the minimum capital, but then restrict the lines of businesses that they can underwrite.
Okay.
And that if they have businesses beyond a certain level, put in the measures that they cannot retain more than a certain percentage, so that gradually they can also grow and then become other companies.
Edgar, I thank you so much for your time on Marketplace, sharing those thoughts with us. Edgar Redo is an insurance expert, sharing some thoughts with us on the 3 insurance firms that are going down by December this year. This is Marketplace. We'll go for a short commercial break. When we are back, we're looking at the fact that more commercial banks want to be technology, using more apps to reach you. And also Ghana Home Loans. You're listing some bonds on the Ghana Stock Exchange. At what cost did they raise these bonds? Some interesting developments there. We're back after this commercial break.